Hey, how you doing and welcome back. In my last video I mentioned I would be making another gift, and the idea of me making a couple of non-clothing related things is to get you back into sewing, because it's the start of the year. You might feel a little bit uninspired and you want a really fast make to get you back at the machine. I've got your back, and this week I'm going to show you how to make a silky satin pillowcase. Now, you've probably seen lots of these online. There are some very expensive versions, of which I'm ashamed to say I actually bought one in the Black Friday sale. It took weeks and weeks and weeks to arrive, and eventually when it did, I was a little bit disappointed. So the one I bought was a famous brand name, I won't say it, but it's made of pure silk. I've tried it out. It's great, it's really nice. It's supposed to stop your hair messing up and keep your skin really nice for the morning. Yep, ticks those boxes, I would say. But I reckoned, as you probably feel as having sewing skills, that I could have a bash at making one myself for much less, and I could make a matching set of them too, because I only bought the one. So this time I'm going to show you what I've made. So this is my version of the silky satin pillowcase. Now, in the UK, we call pillowcases that go on your bed pillowcases, and I believe in the States you also call cushion covers pillowcases, but this is a pillowcase to go on your bed to sleep on. And it's made of this gorgeous silky satin fabric from Lady McElroy. Now, obviously you can make pillowcases in any fabric. I've chosen silky satin for the obvious reasons, because I wanted to mimic the expensive ones, but it's a really good stash busting idea. So if you've got lots of delicate cottons in your stash that you've not used, or you've got a cotton lawn, or anything really that you just don't really have enough to make a dress or a top from, you could turn it into one of these. I'll show you how I measured my pillow and how I actually made it. Now, this has got French seams on the inside, so in terms of a skill builder, if you're reasonably new to sewing, this is a brilliant project to get some confidence and to learn a few different techniques. So if you see the inside, there we go, it's completely encased, and the reason I did that was I wanted something robust. I think satin's quite robust anyway, but I didn't want any seams. I didn't want to have to get the overlocker out. It was just a really fast make that took me just over an hour once I'd cut everything out. The main thing is to get the measurements right, and I'll take you through that in a moment. So perfect fabrics to use for this, which I've gone through. I'll show you a couple of other ones which I nearly chose that I have in stock already on my website. If you want this, I've still got some of the Smiley satin left, and I've also got some brand new satins which I'll show you now. Now, like lots of fabrics, all satins aren't the same. This one is a luxury satin, so it's got more weight to it. It feels more like silk. It's less see-through than some of the cheaper satins. You might see Chinese satins mentioned, and usually the price is an indicator of quality with this type of fabric. This is the closest to the mulberry silk that I actually bought when I bought the first pillowcase, and I find this fantastic. This is also great to wear and for lining as well. Be a fancy lining, but yeah, you could make a fantastic dress or a silk blouse with a bow. These are really great for that. So this one's in a silver grey. I've also got it in a blush pink, which is one of my favourite colours. You probably know if you followed me a while. I'll show you that one now. Here it is. Isn't it gorgeous? Now, I'd say, yeah, this is probably more of a rose pink than a blush pink now I've looked at it closer. This is absolutely gorgeous. It feels just like silk. Easier to sew with, and of course it's easier to wash. So especially bedding, I haven't dared wash my silk pillowcase yet, and I'm a bit nervous about it. And I hate having things that you have to be careful with. I just want to chuck it in with the rest. So this is another great idea, to sew satin instead of silk for pillowcases. Now, these make great gifts, and they also you could put it in a little gift box. You could use the leftover fabric, of which I've got a little strip here, I'm going to turn this into an eye mask for sleeping, and if there's any fabric left over after that, I'll make a scrunchie as well. So it would be a beautiful gift for a teenager or a daughter or a friend. So I really like the idea of that kind of project where you can mix and match things. So yeah, here's how I did it. So first you need to measure your pillow. Now I've got one of these latex pillows. So the pillowcase I made for this will fit it a little bit larger so that I can get it on and off easier. If you've got feather pillows, I think you can get away with sewing a smaller case because you want to plump it up. And this won't change shape, so just have a think about that, and that's the beauty of sewing your own. So you want to measure the length this way and the width. Don't worry too much about the depth, because there'll be plenty of fabric for that. Now mine measured, let me get my notes, 78 by 48 centimetres. Now because of those measurements, I couldn't quite get my pillow into widthways. I wanted my pillow to be made from one long piece of fabric so that it folds over the bottom, because I wanted less seams. Thought it would be stronger and it would last longer to do that. So once you've measured your pillow, you need to add on 2 centimetres either of the long sides, and that's to allow for sewing your French seams. You can add more if you want to give yourself more room to sew, but just make a note of that. And also you need to account for the lapped part. So this is not a zipped pillowcase, this is one with a little lap that you just push the pillow in. This is the inside to keep it in. I find these the easiest, and yeah, any excuse not to sew a zip, eh? So I made this measurement to be 15 centimetres. I think that's right. Yep. You could make it deeper if you prefer a deeper one. I think that's quite enough for me. And then on the short ends, I added on another 2 centimetres to allow to be able to fold over. Now, putting all that together, so you need to think quite carefully about this. So you've got one length that to add, you've got one length plus your 15 centimetres to add, and then you have your seam allowances. So if you can work all that out yourself, double check your measurements, then you'll have your own made to measure pillowcase measurements. Now my measurements took me to need a 1.75 centimetre long strip of fabric by 52 centimetres, which meant I could get 2 pillowcases out of 1.75 metres of fabric, if you've got a wide enough fabric, that is. So I quite liked that idea because I wanted to make 2 matching ones rather than just have one odd one on the bed. So see what your fabric's like, see how wide it is, and make your own decision. If you can get away with sewing it widthways, so you use less fabric, then do, but you'll probably only get one pillow from doing it that way, so you might save yourself a little bit of fabric, but you'll only get the one. So it depends how many you want to make. I've made that sound far more complicated than it needs to be, but I'm sure you clever girls and boys can work that out for yourself. So just get your measurements right, add on 2 centimetres of seam allowance, and then the lap that you want to put at the end on one side of the pillow, of course. So there we go, let me show you how I did it. Lay out the fabric lengthways, and we're going to be turning over a little hem on each of the short edges. Turn over by 1 centimetre, press, and then another centimetre, press and pin. And we're going to stitch that shortly. Before then, turn over 15 centimetres to make one end of the actual flap where the pillowcase will tuck. You can see here on the video, as I sew each end, that I've got a crease line where I've just pressed that 15 centimetres. With wrong sides together, remember we're French stitching this with a French seam, pin together both sides of the pillow. You can see here I'm trying to do it with one hand. But see, you've got the flap folded down, just pressed, and then we're going to match up the side seams and pin. It's really important to stitch the same way down each side, so pin one side and then flip it and then pin the other and go stitch the same way, i.e. open end to closed end, and that way you won't get any ripples. Just take it steady when you're sewing along. You can see here I've got my faff machine with the walking foot feature, which is the IDT, but you can just take it steady. Once it's stitched, trim that seam allowance and fold it inside out. And we're going to take it over to the iron and give it a good press. And it looks so neat here, it's worked out really well. Back to the machine. Now I would pin this stage even though you think you might not need to, because satin can move underneath the sewing foot. Take the pins out as you go, and make sure that when you're stitching you're fully encasing the already sewn seam. So if in doubt, go a little bit further in, as long as you've got the seam allowance to do so. Sew down both sides from the open end to the closed. Remember to flip it round so that you're sewing in the same direction, and then once that's done you can turn it the right way out. As you can see here, it just needs a gentle press, and once you've done that, it's finished. So there you go, there's my finished Silky Satin pillowcase. I really like this, I think it's great, and it really feels quite luxurious. Well, it should be. It's a Lady McElroy fabric. But I enjoyed making this. It fits pretty perfectly. It's probably a teensy bit longer than I need, but with these latex pillows they're not that manoeuvrable, so at least I can get it off and on, and it's going to survive a wash a few times. So yeah, don't forget to wash your fabric before you begin as well. And there you go, I've pressed it nicely. Those French seams look beautiful. When you're sewing fabric, it can be slippy underneath the sewing foot. So if you've got a walking foot or a built-in IDT system like I have on my faff, that's great. If not, that's fine. Just use lots of pins and take it slowly. There's no rush. It's not a long project. It's the sort of thing you could do over a couple of evenings while you've got something on the TV in the background. So there you are, my second little project of the year to get you back into sewing. Next time I'm going to talk fabric, so I'll do a little fabric haul for you, and then we'll talk about planning our sewing makes for clothes. So I'm already thinking about springtime and summertime, my favourite time of year to sew. So yep, let's see what fabrics we've got in stock next time, and I'll take you through some really good close-ups to help you when you're buying fabric online, because it's difficult, isn't it? I hope you found that useful. Give me a thumbs up if you did. I don't know what's happened to my channel lately, but my views have dropped off a little bit. So yeah, if you can help the algorithm and give me a like, that'll be great. Nice to see you. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.